Welcome to Self-Perfected.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's good.
Um,
Hey, everybody.
That's hilarious.
So we were just talking about how everyone's getting fucked up by TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay, do y'all see? Maybe it's just my Instagram page on accident. I looked at enough of these accounts, but there are these people, you know, where they're like, ah, and then like, and then they like point to stuff, and then it'll fill in. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So I don't get many
It's
of these.
That's like a classic though, like sharing information real TikTok.
yeah.
Okay.
But it's like that expression where people are like, you know that, and it's like this really fucking weird. It's like a virus program in the Matrix that's in everyone's mind now, where they're like, "Ooh, I like that." Yeah, Christine, you're good at it. Yeah, people probably want to watch mine. Yeah, Christine, you're a natural. So like, what is that, and why does that matter? Because
so-
I see it's like a virus.
So I'll tell you a couple of things, because we've been talking about AI, and remember, I don't think we shared it on the podcast, but there was this like sort of future time lapse of what AI is going to do, right? Like AI video games, and how it's going to map your brain and recognize all the emotions that you're partaking in and everything, and what you respond to, and then start to curate the game for you. And every character that you interact with, even the NPCs, they're not pre-programmed to just spout some like pre-recorded message. It's like, oh, what's gonna interact with you the best, and like, oh, this character has this programming that's like this kind of empathy and cruelty and all that stuff, right? But that's already taking place in the social media that we use right now, right, with TikTok and things like that. But especially with TikTok and Reels and those sorts of things, what I've noticed is the music that they use. It like, you can really take a song and just a clip of it and make that song go viral. A lot of artists have been doing this to make their songs go viral, because a million people will listen to it over and over and over, and then somebody else will use that sound and they'll use it in their videos, and then it'll spread and all that, and then they get a lot of plays on, I don't know, Spotify or Instagram or whatever, because people are just like, oh, what's that song?
Yeah, there's literal TikTok.
That's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I
Christine.
was just gonna say there's like literal TikTok playlists, and it's funny because you'll see people that are like content creators, and they'll say like, oh, this song is trending, like hop on it now because it doesn't have as many views, so like make your video now with it, and your video will basically like explode.
So the crazy thing about that is it's just like a commercial. Do you remember? I remember in the 90s and like early 2000s watching commercials and like hearing a song in the commercial, and that would be like, I love this song, and that would like hook me into, you know, whatever it is that they were sharing in the commercial. Or I'd be like, I fucking hate that product. Why'd they use my fucking favorite song? You know, that sort of thing. And like, or like, oh, what is that song? I gotta find that song. But you couldn't find it then. That was like fucking difficult in the
You didn't have Shazam.
no, you didn't have Shazam in the 90s. You didn't have like, oh, let me just go on iTunes and look it up. That wasn't a thing. Or look up the lyrics. No, there was none of that. Now it's like so easy to do that, where you can just really connect with a song, and just like, especially because they only give you.
But now they have like the name of the song on it,
right,
and like the artist and everything. I mean,
right, and they only give you like 10, 15 seconds of it, and you're like,
Just
yes.
enough for it to hook. So the term for that is mnemonic, MNEMONIC. Like, remember that old school video that? Yeah. It might not be on YouTube anymore, but this is one of the first videos that I learned about from Cameron. We were chatting about this. It's called Demonic Mnemonics.
Oh yeah, dude, that was it's fucking insane, man.
Dude, like it made so much sense. Okay, for example, everyone, I know you can relate to this. If you're watching the nightly news, and then at the beginning it has like that 20-second clip, and it's like breaking news, live, journalist getting you what you care about, you know that. And then at the end, it will show the channel number, and it will like rotate like a globe, right? But it's the same thing in SportsCenter, the same thing on CNN, on Fox News, across all these channels, they do the same thing. And it's why if you ever saw this old school movies, like picture like some Charlie Chaplin movie, where it's got at the beginning, it's like 10, and then it circles 9, 8, counts down. That symbol alone is putting you in a hypnotic state.
It's literally like the hypnotist going, we're going to count backwards.
Right.
Literally. Yeah, so it's just
Interesting.
it's very important to be aware of that.
Did you see that one,
Yeah.
Mitch?
Mm.
I think it was part of that video that you're talking about where it was like, I think it was from Sports Center specifically.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's like, I don't know if anyone can relate to, or I'm sure people would remember this, but it's like on like when they like swipe the screen, you know, like maybe they're gonna do like a replay and then it comes
It's-
through with
it's
like
the-
a logo or something.
It was
or
the
if it's
top 10
beginning.
countdown. So it'd be like
Right.
the top 10 plays, and then it would
And they
come in
have
each
like
time.
this circular kind of like logo that like rotates. And there was this one where the guy had slowed it. He like had videos, you know, captured it and like slowed it down. And it was this extremely fucking intricate thing with like all these little symbols like popping up like three-dimensionally at like out of the symbol and everything. And it was like rotating. And it was like for a 2-second whoop, like that. And when
Yeah.
he slowed it down, it was like, why is that thing that fucking intricate? And it's like
So-
this mesmerizing symbol thing.
I looked up the definition of mnemonic, and the main one that Google tells you is a device such as a pattern of letters, ideas, or associations that assists in remembering something. So it's like that alone. It's the patterns, the letters. I mean, you see it all over.
Well, and they
But
had tied it
especially,
to
yeah.
also the word sigils.
Yes.
Yes.
So they are also calling them sigils. So which is a term from like magic where you take some words or a phrase, you break it down into the letters, and then you take those letters and you combine it into some kind of an image. And I mean, it's a whole process. Like, I'm not saying to go and do it. I'm just saying this is the idea of it. And then there's like magical rituals that people would do with that symbol and then imbue it with their intention and so forth. And
So okay, that was one of the first times I ever heard about sigils. Because this was way before I found Technotutor. So I was like, oh my god, this is
This
is
is
how
the
you
answer.
program your mind. Yeah, this is the answer. This is gonna help me figure out.
we've all
my life.
searched. Don't worry.
I know, we're all guilty. But I went to this one meetup one time, and this guy was just way into this shit. And so I was asking him, I was like, how do you, like, I didn't know your mind could be programmed. This is amazing. How do you do this? And he explained to me one of these processes, which you don't have to go do this. You can just use Technotutor without having to do all the weird shit. But he's like, okay, so you get in a circle and you all drink this Kool-Aid. I'm just kidding. No, it's you take whatever you want, like Cameron said, and you break it down into all the letters, and then you create that all into one coherent symbol, and then you focus really intensely on it, and then you have it on a piece of paper, you light it on fire so it burns, and then you like switch yourself into a way different state, either laughing or like extreme like cathartic emotion. And that was a way where people in the past used to attempt to put out their intentions or whatever. And it's like, one, you know, some people might be like, oh, that's fucking weird. Other people are going to be like, I'm doing that shit right now.
Yeah, but then you think about it, like that's like corporate logos and shit, you know. Yeah.
like Nike, right? Because you see, you know, there's LeBron and all these other people, and they're dunking, and there's, you know, sweating and drinking Gatorade and whatever. And then at the end, it's like, it's got the heartbeat going in the background, and it's just swoosh. And it's like high speed. Boom.
Guys, did y'all see the whole thing about the Grammys recently?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
with
the performance?
yeah.
It's
Sam
funny because
Smith.
we were talking about
Sam Smith.
talking about Sam Smith
talking
just
about
like
Sam
right
Smith.
before all that. And then
Right.
suddenly it was like, I mean, are we influencing the Matrix or something? I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that was done on purpose, like for him to put out.
Yeah, because
that-
everybody was talking about all this
Exactly.
stuff,
Well,
right?
Of course.
Okay, so I follow Sam Smith on Instagram because I like to follow the people that I'm curious, like, what are they programming the world with, right? Like, I
Sure.
follow the WHO and like Joe Biden and all that, you know.
Oh, you
'cause I'm
follow
like,
the
You
who?
should always follow the WHO's guidelines towards coronavirus and vaccines.
Dude,
Okay,
we're so
anyways,
gonna
anyways,
get
anyways.
boosted in the algorithm.
We have to follow the
Okay.
CDC.
Oh, we're gonna get boosted in so many ways.
Okay, Sam Smith, before this performance on the Grammys, he came out with a new album and like his music videos, and he's shown clips on his Instagram. And it's like his Instagram went from like a 6.5, 7 on a scale. I don't know what scale I'm talking about, but now it's like a 12 and it's out of 10. It's
I was
like
gonna say, what scale are you
insane.
talking about?
Like the outfits that he's posting,
Oh,
the videos and what it's impulsing. It's like he was like pretty gay before, you know, like Speedo type stuff, but now it's like Hunger Games, Capital Elite
yeah.
outfit type shit. And it's like,
Yo,
what are you
okay.
doing?
Have you heard about these 15-minute cities?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Did we
have.
talk about this on the podcast
We
yet?
have not talked
No,
about
we
this.
haven't.
No, we have not.
Oh, this is the Hunger Games. Jess, okay, I did not want to watch Hunger Games. I was like, this looks fucking stupid. And Jess is like, no, it's good. I'm like, I'm not going to fucking watch that movie. Finally, after like 3 months, Jess is like, oh, come on, let's watch it. I don't really like dystopian movies. I find the world is dystopian enough. I don't want to program myself with that shit. But finally, I was like, okay, we'll watch the Hunger Games. Pretty entertaining. But now you see this. So there's apparently these 15-minute cities where everything is within a 15-minute walk.
Mitchell, they don't call it 15-minute cities. They call it
Districts.
15-minute districts. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
That sounds fucking worse.
Yeah.
It's like straight.
My social credit score went down just from that.
Hey, just real quick though,
Yeah.
on that point, like I forget who it was I was watching, but they were talking about how they had read the Hunger Games like a long time ago, you know, and then they had watched the movie when it came out, and they had watched it recently, and they were like, for some reason they went back and watched it again. It's kind of like what you're describing, and they were like, holy shit,
I
this
remember
is
reading
like
that
straight up what's
book.
going on.
Yeah, I remember reading that book way back because I was just curious. Like I was always curious with like all the trendy books. And when I finished the book, I was like, does anyone not see? Because I think I was already like into, dystopian, like all the, not mainstream stuff. And I was like, does anyone else not notice that this is literally programming
Yeah.
like where the future is going? And like I remember, do you guys remember like all like that FEMA stuff where it's like eventually like everyone's gonna be shipped off to like these camps and everything, and then the actual United States was sectioned off into districts, like literally 13 districts that you would get sent to on a camp or whatever. And I was like, it was almost like the Matrix to me. Like this is totally like before I knew about the World Economic Forum, I'm like, this is kind of like where we're going if we don't do anything about like
Watch
literally
Sam Smith perform at the World Economic Forum.
Okay, but I just opened his Instagram and I was gonna start showing his posts, and I realized I couldn't show the other posts because they were too explicit, like
Exquisite.
straight up insane what he's posting. I'm like, what
I like that
is
one.
going
Hey,
on?
I like that one
Hey.
you showed. It's like half Missy Elliott.
You're not
that?
supposed to use the word
Look at that
insane
trash bag.
nowadays.
Why not?
It's ableist. It's for the people who aren't. For the people, it's like ostracizing people who are insane.
Oh,
Well.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
The what was I gonna say? Oh, I was thinking of this though. The Sam Smith thing. It's like sometimes you like things click, right? So like when you were saying, Jess, about how before it was like he was kind of gay, not like a lot popping off. He was I guess relatively popular, but then suddenly it was like this shift. But think about it.
Like
He
a
like literally
big
did a
shift.
deal with the devil.
100%.
And they like did a fucking satanic ritual, like showing like, okay, guys, I'm accepting everything and I'm with the devil now and I'm going to the next point. I mean, it's
all of
like
a
in
sudden
your
got
fucking
real
face.
bad.
It's interesting because it's like, okay, obviously they're doing this to make money. That's like, obviously that's it. That's the only point, right? But it's okay, what lengths are you willing to go to make that money, right? Like, and okay, we're gonna do this and it's gonna be really controversial, and then once we have all eyes on us, then we're gonna do this that's even more controversial, and then more people are gonna want to listen to your
It's
album.
all energy based.
Exactly.
Like, think
It
about
makes
it.
Janet
That's not
Jackson's-
actually based on anything, like it's not giving any real value to the people who
No.
are observing it. It's just creating energy inside them. Like if it was real value, it would actually be something like he'd be wearing something that like the average person would wear, but he's wearing things that nobody fucking wears on the street. Like it's only on Gay Pride Day, when they're at the parades, do they wear shit like this on the street. Like it's insane what he's doing.
So,
And it
okay,
just provokes people, even like us, right? Like it's like we look at that and we're like, the fuck is he doing? And that's exactly what they want. It's like people to be like super confused with how crazy it is. But then when all these celebrities and whatnot are participating in that, then everything else that's being brought into the government and social things, like those seem so less weird because we're distracted by these like abstract crazy things that all these celebrities are doing. Like, oh, don't pay attention to what's on the bottom of these bills that were being passed and all this shit. It's like nobody pays attention to all this because they're all distracted by all that.
Okay, so I want to bring it back to what we started off with about like TikToks and Reels and all that, right? It's like, okay, you're just saying he's not doing anything of any real value. All these people who make all these videos are making videos of no value at all
Yeah.
whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
And it's all just like, oh, here's the trend, and I'm just gonna get really popular. A whole bunch of people are gonna watch my shit, whatever. But consider this, right? Remember, remember Bill Gates or Microsoft had made that patent, or got that patent for basically, I don't know, something with
Bitcoin mining
blockchain,
your body or
Bitcoin
something.
mining. Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
yeah.
Using your
Oh
body
fuck.
movements, right? It's like we're already doing that. There's no Bitcoin involved. There's nothing being like it's we're already participating in that. And the other thing
Definitely.
is, you guys know about cymatics, right? I played a
Mhm.
video on the last hangout, or maybe it was the TT call, but anyway, I played a video of cymatics and just how somebody like would hook up a tube of water to a speaker, and then they would just play different frequencies, not even music,
Oh.
just different
Mhm.
frequencies, and it would just create this pattern in the water where you're watching this waterfall, and it's in a corkscrew, and then they play a
Mhm.
different frequency, and it looks like the water's going back up into the tube. It's amazing. It's so cool, right? But the point with that being, it's like, okay, frequency can affect water like this, right? You're made of majority of water, like at least 50%. Some people say up to 70 or 80%. I don't know, but you're made up of mostly water, right? And then you listen to these little 30-second TikToks or whatever with all these different songs, all these different clips. And then the imagery that you're getting as well at the same time is like, uh, I don't know, it's usually something shocking. And usually the crazy thing about like TikTok is they're monitoring everything that like how you respond to everything. And so basically, you'll watch a video and then they know when you're going to swipe off. They already know. They're like, okay, usually at about 15 minutes, there's a lull here. And then they send you a different video that's like to draw you back in, or they'll send you like every person's interaction with TikTok specifically. And I know this is with other social medias as well, but I know specifically for TikTok, every person's interaction is going to be completely different. Where, if Christina and I both had TikTok and we're swiping next to each other, like, oh, going on to the next video, like we would see completely different things. And then you can't go back unless you're in that session. You can't go back to see the videos that you swiped on, I don't know, 2 days ago or
So
a
there's
day
no
ago.
like history.
It's not unless you liked it or bookmarked it or something
Okay.
like that. You're not going back and finding that video.
So I'm not on TikTok, but there's that you can scroll reels on like Facebook.
Right.
And it's so funny because you can play with it. And like the other day, they impulsed me with this like comedian guy. And I was like, okay, let me see how good this algorithm is. So I followed the account with, I don't know, whatever account it was. I didn't even look at the account. I'm just like playing with it, right? So I press follow because they have the follow option on the window itself when they're playing the reel. And then I scrolled down to see how many it would take for them to show me him again. And then I said, I'm going to follow every single video I see, every single account that shows a video of this specific comedian. And so I went and that's what I started doing. And eventually it was like, it would feed me 10 reels, or I don't even know, little clips. I don't even know for sure what they're called, of him doing a bit, like 10 in a row. Because they were like, oh, she's loving it. Let's just feed her all this guy. Like, let's not give her anything else. And I'm like, this is insane. Like, as long as it keeps your attention and you're there, it will do whatever it takes, even if it's 10 of the same guy in a row. But normally it would never feed you 10 of the same guy doing different bits in a row. Like, you have to tell it to do these things, but it will do whatever it takes to keep you there. And then randomly it'll show something super obscure and super weird if you're like getting a lull on how long you stay on these bits. It'll be like, oh, let me show you a cute little kitten now, and it's purring and it's super cute. And oh, she doesn't like that anymore. Let me show her this guy doing parkour, flipping off the building, and like all this shit. Like,
what
you
I-
know what I mean? Like,
I
It's like a
mostly
kid
get-
going, look at me, look what I'm doing. Hey, come here, look at me, look at me. And it's like, please, okay. Oh, you like that? Okay, good. Okay, get that.
I mostly I mostly
it's
get
like
videos
feeding you.
of like
Yeah, exactly.
of horses. I mostly get videos of horses. I don't know why, but I am into it. I'm totally into it. Right?
Yo, I was scrolling and all of a sudden this video came on, and it's got like a forest in the background, and it's got a cow without horns walking here, and it's got trees, and these cows are coming through the trees, and all of a sudden you see this big boy coming through the trees, but he's got like 8-foot long horns, you know, the cows with horns, and it's the song all the pretty girls on the, you know, and it's like, so it's like got bass and it's really impulsing with the music, but this cow, and it's perfect because with the bass the cow is tipping its horns to get through the trees because it can't fit through the trees if it was just normal, and so it's like and I'm like, dude, I sent that to Katie. I'm like, Katie, this is your next breed of
Longhorn. That's funny. It's also
what's-
cool because Drake's like explore page, like we've definitely noticed a difference between males and females. Like on
Mm.
Drake's page, he'll get straight up like pornographic stuff.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
and he won't even.
Is this
click
different
on
than the
it.
horses?
It-
Is this different than the
It's
horses?
beside the horses.
Yeah.
Wow.
Horses, porn.
And on
Horse
Facebook,
porn.
too, like a full-on ad.
Oh
of,
shit. No,
like-
I gotta turn on my phone before I say shit like that. It's like, you like what now? What's that here? No, oh, please stop.
So this is where I find it so helpful to, well, one of the many reasons to study the destiny stuff, because if you don't know what's going on, you just get lost in it. Like the millennials say, lost in the sauce. And like straight up, you just end up getting fucking your whole life sucked in to this temporary fleeting thing. But when you understand with what Destiny's talking about, it's like we're here physically, like we all share this earth. It's all reality. And there is also then energy. And so your body is like this battery that is feeding this world system, this whole collective thing, whether it be TikTok videos or your job or just how you interact with other people. You can either have real physical expression from the starting point of stability and doing what's best. And then you can enjoy, if you want to look, you know, if you want to listen to music or watch a cow walk through the trees and you laugh about it, that's cool. But when you can develop that distinction of, am I here physically or am I in the mind doing this for energy? It's like, unless we develop that distinction, world's pretty, it's like we're going to burn ourselves up, like literally.
Look at, I look at the point of children navigating all of this, because it's like I'm almost 40 and like I didn't grow up with apps, you know what I mean? I grew up with, 56K modem with that weird screeching sound when you turn it on and you can't use your phone at the same time, and like, so, and I can see like, cause like I was telling you guys before we started recording, I went on yesterday to look at TikTok on my browser because I don't have it on my phone. And I never really looked at the actual app. I've just seen people posting, a clip from TikTok on something else or whatever. So I wanted to see like, how does it actually work? And it was just so fucking intense. Like I can see all these points now of how it works. And, I was just looking at too, that point of the algorithmic nature of it, the AI. And I don't know if we were saying it when we started recording or before, but that point of like how when it's got like that, like the song or whatever, right? And then that song's going viral. And then, and like you were saying, Christine, like then people are like, okay, let me use this song because it's going viral. It's similar to when I was looking at Midjourney, like the art AI stuff, where I was looking at the best of, and then I would see a trend within different images where it was like, oh, I noticed it one day, like back when I was looking into this. So it's like probably, I guess, a few weeks ago. It's probably not the same anymore. But there was like, everybody was in like all the top images, everyone was using the word superb in their prompt for the thing. And then I checked it like a few days later and it was like, they weren't doing that word anymore. It was like, and I was like, man, it's like people who are just totally focused on it, they're figuring out like, oh, this word creates this quality to the image that I couldn't get before. And then other people see it. And then it's like, bam, that's suddenly like the trending word in the art. That's like giving that little thing that everyone's like, oh, I like that. I like that, you know?
It's
Yeah.
everywhere. It's not like people think it's unique to the algorithms on social media, but it's also unique to, or it's not unique because it's common everywhere. You go out into public and you go to the I don't know, you just go somewhere and you're talking to people and someone uses a word that you've never really heard used in that way before, then you're like, oh, and you don't even think this. It's just like a program where it made you feel some type of way in that moment when someone used that word in that way. And so then you start using that word in different time. Like,
Or you notice it
example,
with generational gaps too. What were you going to say, the example?
the example is going to be actually Max what was the word that he used to use back in the day? It was
Boy.
no, it was like back when you guys used to live in Houston, there was a specific word. He's had a couple of them, but it doesn't matter. I found myself at home when not even communicating with the Copes whatsoever, just like with Mitchell, I started using that word. And it's like, it's just like super, it's like what is it called? Contagious. It's contagious.
It's actually a meme.
Yeah, it's a meme.
Well, I guess maybe not in the specific context you're talking about, but
I'm just talking about the greater impulse.
Just when you're talking to somebody and they use a word that you're like, yeah.
Right. It's like anytime that something gives you a hit, like if it brings up dopamine or serotonin or like something, like it gives you a little bit of a spark beyond like your mundane, then it's like something that you go and you're attracted to and you go into. And that's just the ebb and flow of being on this plane of, it's like a polarity, like a depression of like a high and a low that you always go into. And if you hit a high, then you're like, oh, I want to ride this high. Let me continue using this word until it no longer gives me the hit that it's giving. Just like superb, or just like this comedian
or like a celebrity or a particular brand or whatever.
It's also
like Sam
wanting to
Smith
be
and his
trendy
glory
and fit
that he's in right now.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like
What were you
you're also
saying?
trying to like, because I've noticed when I'm in different friend group, and if I hang out with them for like, this is back especially in high school and stuff, like you'd hang out with certain people or with like my soccer friends or something like that. Everyone would have different words and language that they would use, and then you would start adopting the same words that they would use. And it's almost also a way just to like fit in with the crowd that you're with, because that's just also what everyone else is doing. It's like everyone just wants to be socially accepted to what's trendy, right? You don't want to be the odd one out. Like especially my younger cousins now, it's like they come up like what Mitchell says, like all these words that you're like, I don't know, these are what the young people are saying these days, or Gen X.
See, but there's something weird about that, because like that, I agree with you. You said a point of like, you want to be trendy and you want to fit in, right? But then, and I'm sure somebody has done studies on this, but where does the word come from in the first place?
Who creates
because
it?
like there's generations, like my generation, no one well, I mean, maybe some who are trying to fit into the younger ones, but like saying lit, you know, or
bro,
or like I see people saying like that bussin', you know, like there's definite words where I'm like, that was never used when I was growing up. That was no cap. Like these are definitely new terms that are part of a newer generation, and some of them will stick and some of them won't. But I'm like, somebody, you know, I was thinking about this too. Like I remember back when I was in college, and I was thinking it because I was going to ask you guys like what the weather was like, because I know you guys are in Florida, right? Yeah. And I was going to ask you, and because I was thinking to myself, man, it's really cold. It's cold as balls, right? and I was thinking of that phrase, right? Like here in Texas, anyways. And I was like, where did that come from? Because I must have heard that somewhere. And then I was thinking back to when I was in college, and I remember being in my dorm room, and there was this, and we were talking about something being ridiculous, and somebody said it was redonkulous.
Oh yeah.
Right. And then I remember everyone started using that phrase. And I remember at the time thinking they had made that up. But then I started hearing it everywhere.
Right.
And I was like,
Okay.
Did they make it up? Was it like a mind consciousness thing that like a 100th monkey, like a bunch of people started using it and
Dude.
then, or was it a one person thing?
Okay. 2 points. One is the word meme. I did not know this. I looked up the etymology of it. It's the combination of the word mime and eem. Mime, like you're imitating, and eem as in phoneme, which means sound. So it's literally like an imitative sound, which is kind of cool because we've been talking about sound so much and how sound is so much more than just sound, like people think, right? You got to have TT for that one though. Now the other part is Jess and I just finished reading Snow Crash. Her, me, and Aristotle would basically every night I would just read it, and that book.
The ending of that book sucks.
What?
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Honestly,
You're
I think
out.
the ending of hold on, you and Katie need to get together and critique books because she says about every book. Right? She's always like, "Oh, I love that book until the very end. It's just terrible." And I'm like,
It just
Felt
it
that way
leaves
about
you
Three Body
like
Problem.
I'm not
it's
that
like an
critical.
inconclusive
Okay.
ending.
Okay,
It's an
well,
inconclusive ending.
that's
Like
probably
all
why-
the
that's
characters
probably why they
don't
did it.
have any conclusion. It's like
yeah. However, okay.
Jess is like, I need you to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Very
Put a little
nicely.
bow on it.
like the only thing
this-
is that YT goes home. But it's like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? Great, she went home. Nice. Okay, story's
I
done.
literally don't remember at all the ending.
I do remember. It was a great
Okay. Hey,
I haven't
hang
read it
on
in like
here.
10 years or something.
Y'all were
Go ahead.
hyping up this book so much. I see why, because in this book, right? It's this fiction book. And it is, I don't know if it was in the 90s or whenever it came out, but it was talking about the metaverse before the metaverse was a thing. And it's pretty fascinating because without spoiling any of the books, so you can go read it and you can judge for yourself if the ending sucks or
The
not
term metaverse was coined from this book.
from this book. Okay.
Yeah, this guy
Fascinating.
coined it. Yeah.
Right on. And so in the book though, he's explaining how throughout time there's been everyone heard of like speaking in tongues. You know how is that like a common thing? People know about that? I know people who
so.
grew
Like,
up with religion,
Some
right? It's
religious,
like
yeah.
So anyway, but how I found it just really fascinating is that it's like they associate this language with a virus, how it spreads amongst people. I'm noticing that that's what this fucking TikTok shit is.
Yep.
It's this virus and it's going across languages because I'm sure there's a Spanish version of the fucking, Sigma Girls video and a Chinese, well, maybe not a Chinese version because China only has empowering TikToks apparently.
That's right.
But I'm seeing more and more how language really is a virus and now how these memes are like that. It's not necessarily a bad thing, just like a virus isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's a thing that we have to be aware of. But the other part is near the end of Snow Crash, there's this one scene where it's like, okay, imagine you're in the metaverse, but there's like a central place where y'all hang out. And there's like a big amphitheater in this metaverse. And then they're explaining the show that happens at the end. It's like 250,000 people are all there in the metaverse, all watching the same show. And they're explaining how it's like the most ultimate fantastic thing. Like it's like a fireworks show where it keeps building to the climax, but then it goes back and it keeps building more and it goes back. And it has like every movie that was ever made and like the most entertaining performers and all of this all in one giant interconnected movie thing. And when you're explaining the metaverse or that Discover page, it's like that's what it's leading to is this most fantastical movie interactive experience that people could ever imagine, where if you just watched it for days on end, you couldn't even see all of it because it's that like glorious and magnificent.
Yeah.
And for those of you who all studied Destiny and heard about the white light construct, it's the same fucking thing. It's just a new manifestation of it where people are like, this is the most amazing. Like, I'm pretty sure that people are going to start thinking that this metaverse thing and all that, it will equate to this religious experience where people start like praying to it. Like, oh my God, it's so
I was just
amazing.
thinking that the other day, man.
And then
Like they're
when
gonna
it
see it as God.
Yeah.
yeah, and it'll hook people because they'll have their fucking Neuralink in. And now their dopamine, their serotonin, their adrenaline is all connected to it. So then they're
Think about
literally
it, why do people
to
believe
pray
in
to it.
God? Why do people believe in God? Because they want to go to heaven. And heaven
And
is
it's a feeling.
associated with just feeling good all the time. So if you have an AI that can just make you feel good all the fucking time, I can totally see people being like, oh, you know what? We realized the idea we had of God as some being out there that already existed, that's not what God was. This is God. And so when you think about all the whole trend of breaking the link that people have with that type of God, it's now people can be sucked into, oh, this is the God.
Yeah.
It's this AI artificial thing that gives us what we want, which is literally the basis of prime intellect, the metamorphosis of prime intellect.
Right. And I'll just say this, even though it'll go over most people's heads, but if there is any form of God, the only thing would be a system of equality that we all equally create, and that it would give everyone according to what they need. And even then, it's not like some God that's better than you. It's just a systematic way to make sure we live the principles of what's best for all.
I mean, that is what we're all creating right now within the starting point of just self-interest. We're creating that God because that thing is now fucking running everything. So even the idea of like, well, that sounds like some terrible thing, like you're trying to create some utopian. It's like we're already creating. Think about this. It's either utopia or dystopia.
Yeah.
Because if your starting point is not what is best for all, it is only going to go towards the point of what's not best. And that's going to build and build and build and build and build.
It's so funny because we've been conditioned and programmed to think that utopia is a bad thing. And that it would never actually be supportive and best for all. And that utopias always turn into dystopias and like all these things. And it's like,
think of the cognitive dissonance to think that utopia is a bad thing and yet you want to go to heaven, right? It's like what are you participating in?
Because there'd be some kind of like dictator that would just control everything, like God.
Like,
you mean like God?
It's like
that?
It's like people. The only reason why it's to that point is because nobody is a self-leader. Like nobody's willing to take full responsibility of their lives, and nobody has even seen that as an example. So they can't even fathom what it looks like for collectively everyone to take responsibility and how that would impact the world, and how that would impact society.
Right, because none of us take full responsibility. So of course only one person would just dictate everything. It's like that is not what we're talking about. Like that
because
would
somebody
be by
else has to
definition
take responsibility
not a
because you're not taking responsibility.
Right.
Which is lack of education.
Right. It's lack of education. And it's like, I was talking about this when we were chatting on Friday, but about how as humanity, we have this cycle that we go through. And like, you can see it in other people. I encourage you to see it in yourself too, of where you refuse to see that you're creating consequence in the world and that the state of the world is because of you and how you choose to act. And then what that has evolved into is all of us looking for fucking shortcuts now. Because now people are more and more starting to see like, oh shit, we are interconnected. On some deep level, like if I do something, it does have an effect on other people. People are starting to see that. But now it's like, okay, well, if we were to deal with this, let me have a shortcut, such as let's just meditate. Let's just raise the vibration, whatever the fuck you think that means. Let's just have AI do it for us. Let's just leave it up to Joe Biden, Build Back Better.
Not change at all.
Yes.
And it'll magically work. It'll all magically work out.
Yes. So for everyone listening to this, look in your own fucking life. Where's the damn shortcuts you're looking for? Because that is
alcohol
anti-self-perfection.
Is like one of the biggest shortcuts. Alcohol, weed, stuff like that.
I was thinking like losing weight, like there's a pill for every ill type mentality. It's like you just want a shortcut to like better health, to like more money, the people doing Forex and investing and all this kind of stuff without actually building any of like that self-responsibility.
You're right. That's a shortcut.
Yeah.
It's like I'm just gonna learn these tricks in like this little system in here, and then I'm just gonna extract money out of everything.
And okay, but get this,
ever
since you were in school, like from preschool, you've been programmed to want to have the tricks and the hacks. Because guess what? Nobody wants to go the long way around in school. For myself, AR, I severely
AR is accelerated reading for anyone who doesn't know.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So,
people are thinking you mean augmented reality.
It's okay. No, Arkansas. So AR was just
AR
like you had to read a book and then you got quizzed on the book and then you got a score. And you had to read so many books and get a certain score in order to like get a good grade in AR.
In Minnesota?
I don't know.
Yeah, you get like points for reading these fucking books. I remember doing it and just being like,
anyways,
okay.
It doesn't matter. All it is you read a book, you get tested on it, and that determines your grade in school.
My favorite way to read a book, by the way.
Yes, of
Yeah.
course. And I
Read it under
couldn't read
pressure
for
with
shit.
tests at the
I
end.
could not read. I could
Yeah.
not read at all. Like I was absolutely horrendous. And so I would go watch the movie, and based on the movie, I would take the test. And usually I got at least 70%, and that was a passing grade, so it was fine. Or you go, eventually I learned about like Cliff Notes or YouTube, and you just quick go, watch the YouTube Cliff Notes or read the Cliff Notes, and then I'd go take the AR test. And that's just like hacking and tricking the system in school. But think about it. Your entire time that you've been in school, literally you've been programmed to think that you can just hack your way through life, that there's no reason to actually fundamentally build anything, like actually learn anything in school, because after you're done with the test, you don't have to retain any of this goddamn information. Like, go out into the real world. Let me see how I can hack the system. Let me see how I can make the most money really quick, because that's going to solve all my issues for me. It's like, no, actually provide a real service with a product that actually supports someone's fundamental being, a livelihood, and just do that and build on that and provide extreme value, and that will pay off long term. But the long way is the short way, and everyone hates that because they're so impatient and they want the quick hit. Just like in school, every single week you have a quick hit of what your score is. Every single month, oh, you have a test, a hit on where you're at. It's like you're constantly just grade it. And so if you don't constantly like go up in your amount of money you have, it's like, fuck, like I'm not getting the hits that I want in life. I'm not like moving forward and progressing. And so that's why people just choose the quick ways around things. Like
I had
the
this
tricks and the hacks.
Yeah, that's
Go ahead,
really
Drake.
well said, Jess. I'll let you go. Mitch, go ahead, and then I know what
Well,
I'm.
I just had this insight this morning I forgot about. I just like when I was waking up and I was just like drinking some water, standing there in the kitchen, just like, just like getting myself ready for the day. And I was looking at the week ahead, Sunday morning, and I remembered what it used to feel like when I was growing up, and I knew it was Sunday and then tomorrow I have to go to school. And just that whole thing of then, oh, fuck, I'm going to spend 8 hours at school tomorrow and it's only Monday and then it's Tuesday. And I was like, wow, I have serious contempt still. Like, this is a point I'm actively working through of the contempt for the week ahead. And it's not because like I love my work. Like, we got a new office. We just had awesome meetup yesterday. Like, our team's growing. All of that is growing. It's very exciting because I put in a bunch of fucking work and it's paying off. And now there's still a lot more to go. So it's fun in a sense, but I'm like, why?
It works because you're doing what you love, Mitch, and you've always just done what you love.
Exactly.
If you didn't love it,
Follow
you
your
didn't
passion.
do it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You were just passionate all the time from the beginning.
Mm-hmm. And it's like,
that's the shortcut.
I see how I'm so grateful how we're going to be raising Aristotle, how we already are, where it's like there's really no difference between the weekend, the weekday, the morning, afternoon, evening. It's like all the time, just being able to continue to give and grow and serve and do that from purpose. Like business is the vehicle for purpose. And it's cool because I'm seeing real time how I can do so much. Like, I went on a walk this morning then, and for like 45 minutes, I was just doing self-forgiveness out loud on the point. And I just saw I saw myself shift. Now, of course, I got to go now live it. But that's such an important point, as everyone in Self-Perfected looking at, is like, where are you looking for that easy way out? Where do you still dread doing the fucking tasks? Because when you can learn how to just embrace that and do the thing, it feels so good. And isn't that feeling so damn like good when you're at the end of a long work day and you actually put it all out there and you played full on and you go to bed and you're like, wow, I'm tired, but like, this feels fucking good. Yeah. Owen, shout out Owen for putting that in the chat. How to make 20,000 a month using AI easily. Has anyone else clicked on one of those videos to see what happens? All of a sudden you're inundated with it. Yeah. That is the exact, like, when you could fucking see it, you could see it.
Okay. I've been getting another thing that I've been clicking on to send more of in the algorithms on the shorts is these tricks and hacks to save money or make money, like things like this. And it's so freaking hilarious. One of them that keeps popping up is you can send in your stool sample daily, and like they're saying like you can get paid like a lot of money for doing this.
Wait. I can get paid for taking shits?
Literally,
You already
it's
know I
so
like to
funny.
take shits.
It's
Jake's
so
like, I'm
and,
out.
funny.
and donating plasma.
And then they're like, yeah, get this credit card and spend this amount of money, use those points and transfer them to this site before this site, because then you only have to spend this many points to go on this, and it's like, buy this house, but use this loan and tell them you want this, and it's like just trying to figure out how to hack and do, and it's like you can get so fucking lost in the sauce with all this shit, and then like you're doing all these small little things and trying to, and it's like, what the mind is complicated, reality is actually simple. Instead of participating in all that crazy bullshit and trying to hack and just find something that you can support that adds real value. Techno tutor, and just sell that and actually support people to change. Like, you don't need to participate in all these hacks and tricks, and it's another way to just get off on life. It's another way to just get another dopamine hit. Like, oh, I figured out a way to game the system. I'm winning. It's like,
Yeah, like you're so
you didn't
clever. Like
build
there aren't
anything.
10,000 other fucking people doing, and it's like the person making the money is that person going like, here's the tips and tricks. And they're just doing videos where they're getting ad revenue.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's like you're just entertaining all these other people who aren't really doing anything with it.
So
in the
it's funny,
comments,
'cause-
Owen just said we should name the podcast Lost in the Sauce, and I'm in alignment with that. Jules likes too much sauce.
we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out as we go. But no, we were talking with someone yesterday, and they were talking about how they were in school gaming the system, and they weren't even like top of their class or anything like that. They were literally saying how they would look in the math book, and in the math book they would go, okay, in the back would be the answers. You just had to find how to get to the answer for that particular problem. And if you knew like the pattern to find the answer, then you could find all the answers to all the patterns or to all the problems. But he didn't know how to actually do the problems themselves. So he would just be like, well, I can just find the answers. And then he would tell all the other kids, hey, you give me a couple of bucks, I'll get the answers for you, right? And it's so interesting because that pattern of school is literally every student wants to do that. Every student wants to just, I don't want to fucking do this. I don't see the point in this. This doesn't make sense to me. I know I need to get the grade.
Did you guys have WebAssign and things like that when you were in school?
I don't remember.
I don't know, but just that word made my dopamine drop.
Well, but I mean, you've tutored kids more recently, like in high school and stuff like this. And a lot of these like high school and college, they use like online programs.
Yeah.
And we started doing this when I was in university
God
when I was in university. But now it's like you log into something. It has a bunch of homework questions, maybe multiple
Oh,
choice.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
you like they use it for chemistry a lot. There was one, I'm trying to remember what it was called. I think it was just
Right.
WebAssign, but there's
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
few
yeah.
of these different things.
Yeah.
And what it became was just
Joel
okay.
said WebAssign sounds so old.
I don't know what the new ones are, but it's like
Dude,
copy
wow.
the question, put it into Google. Okay, here's a bunch of other people
But
saying that.
Cameron,
That's exactly
when I
what
took
students
online
do.
classes, it would lock you into the window, and you wouldn't be able to open you wouldn't be able to go anywhere else, maneuver
Even
anywhere
more
else
like a
until you-
prison.
until
Hold
you
on,
finish.
Kids
let me
already-
get my
thing
other
is-
laptop
the thing
real
is,
quick.
okay, I'm sitting here on this laptop. Oh,
Right.
Right.
It's
You
like,
know what
oh,
I'm
we
saying?
got you guys. You want to get people to hack this one?
get
You're
this,
like,
get this.
fucking
Some
idiots,
go even
man.
further, and they record you. They
Yeah.
record you on.
So I
you have
pre-record
to have your
myself.
camera on,
Deep fake
and you
it.
have to.
I
Okay.
pre-record myself.
I
Oh,
talked to someone who went to the same university I went to, UCF, right? And they were like, yeah, I cheated on all the tests. And I was like, how though? Because I remember when I would go in, they would make you sign in with your ID. You'd have to sit at a specific desk that they assigned for you. They were recording you the entire time. They made it pretty challenging to cheat on these tests, right? And he's like, oh, no.
bodydoubles.com.
He was like, what I did was I stayed home and I just told them that I'm not able to actually drive in
I have COVID.
because of work or whatever.
My
Like,
religion.
it was way before COVID, you know, same time that I was going to UCF, right? And he's like, yeah, I just told him that like I'm so busy with work that I can't actually drive over there or something like that. And so they would just have me do it on my own computer and they would record me, but it was like they were just recording me and I could just open a different window and they weren't seeing what I was actually doing. I would just look up all the answers and do it. I'm like, oh wow.
You're like, I'm really working this problem out.
Yeah, that's definitely worth $20,000 a year, however much UCF is.
Right.
Right.
You're paying
So-
all that money to go and pretend to perform so that you can get a certificate that everyone knows that's what everyone's doing.
I always thought I
what
should
fucking-
fake a learning disability.
So I was taking this class called drug use and abuse, but I was doing it online. And
How much drugs did you have to abuse?
and I knew
I mean, to
someone who
pass.
knew a lot about drugs.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
I knew someone who knew a lot about that just because of their life knowledge, because they used to abuse a lot of substances and then like they did all the whatever. It doesn't matter how they accumulated this knowledge. I just knew that they were going to know the answers to my quizzes. So we went out and we're at this cafe and I'm here on my laptop, but I'm reading it out loud and reading the choices out loud. And then he's writing down it's A, or he's not like talking out loud. He's just telling me which one it is. I'm like, oh great. And I'm getting 100% on all my
What kind of
quizzes, so I'm
questions
not
was
doing
it? Like,
shit.
if okay, you're at a party, 3 of your friends are there. They've got 2 Xannies. You've been drinking 3. You've been drinking all night. Should you pop them if you want to feel buzzed?
How
wanna
lit
feel
do you
relaxed?
feel?
Yeah, like you want
Yeah.
like a mellow buzz. How much of it? And you're like, and what's the fine line between drug use and abuse?
Dude, that
Is
was
what
my
you're learning. Is
that
that
is
like the point of the class?
fucked up. Wow. I just
What?
realized
They're literally
like,
programming
that-
you to
that-
drug
that
use
was the
but not
equation.
abuse.
that was the equation in my mind for a while.
Yeah.
How do I keep the perfect high where it doesn't wear off?
Oh, I
Dude,
thought you were gonna
that's
say
fucked.
how do I take
That's
the
what
right
the
The
amount of
algorithms are
maximum
trying to
amount
figure
of
out
use
right
before
now.
it's considered abuse.
That's what the
How do-
algorithms are going.
How
for.
do I get enough of this drug where I'm not addicted? Like that was the equation in my mind. Like I'd go to like festivals like you, Mitch, you know, and I'd be like, okay, I can see how I could get addicted to this one. How much can I take though before that happens? Right?
Yeah, I had whole rules in my mind set up. Like I will never do that one, but like this one, like okay, like once every 3 weeks.
I never do meth. I'll never do.
You-
I'll try the line.
I will never do this one alone. Those are my rules. My rules are I would never do this
My
one
rules just
alone.
kept changing though. I had no integrity.
I was very similar, except on the ones that were more socially acceptable, I always went to the extreme. Like with alcohol, it was stupid. Like, even if I was alone in my fucking apartment, I'd get this whipped cream vodka and I'd just drink the whole thing. Like,
I thought you were
in,
gonna
like,
say you get
five
the whipped
sips.
cream canisters.
No, like literally just like
Had
5
shot of
sips, like
vodka.
just drink, like okay, and then like not very long later, like take another big swig, and like in 4 or 5 swigs, like it's gone. And like my liver was insane because okay, so it all started with this car accident I got in, and they put me on all these narcotics, and I was on like heavy narcotics for like 7-8 months, and I realized that I need to get off these narcotics. Like at the time in high school, I had never like used any alcohol or like substance abuse whatsoever, nothing. And so to go from nothing to all of a sudden being on like heavy narcotics, it was like I was not able to function. And I was like, I need to pass high school on time because I don't want to be here. So I'm going to stop taking these narcotics. So then instead of being on the narcotic high, I got on the pain high, because then, you know, I'm not covering it up. So it's just the pain. So then I'm on that high. And then I go to college and it's like, oh, there's so many other ways to get highs. But my liver was already great at detoxing things because I'd gone through all those drugs for so long. And so it was like, I could drink copious amounts of alcohol without ever having drank alcohol before, because your liver, it doesn't matter what it's detoxifying, it just gets better at its job. And so it's crazy. Like looking back on it now, it's like, it was never enough. It was never going to be enough. Just like Mitchell said, that's why you kept adapting new rules
Just like
in
TikTok.
your drug regimen. Like, oh, this is okay. No, I'm gonna add this in the regimen, or oh, I'm gonna add in a Red Bull after I take this, and this to give me that boost before I take another one of this or whatever. It's like this calculation. You know that meme with that lady and all the calculations,
Like the equations and stuff.
Yes, that's exactly what you're doing, trying to optimize your experience.
Wow. That's cool what Zoe posted in the comments. Like what I'm seeing too is the education that we all never got as kids, a real fucking education that most of the planet still has not received, but they will receive, is TechnoTutor. It's like for the first time ever, I was like, wow, I am actually learning. This is really, really cool. I can use this information. Like I can change my life. Like a really valuable thing is just learning equals change. To really understand that. I mean, for those who have TechnoTutor, obviously, you know what to do with that, because your level of capability and your ability to take on more responsibility and therefore make more money and improve your life. It's like, that's the real process of learning, which most people never fucking got.
Yeah. The point that the point that I see within, like, you go to school to game the system and that's all you really learn. You don't spend any time actually learning or developing your ability to process information or, adapt or gain new information, any of that stuff. You don't spend any time actually doing that because the entire time you're just trying to get the grade and just like, okay, I figured out how to get to the grade the quickest way. And now I can, stop focusing on that and do whatever I want to do. Right. That's the education that everyone's got. And that's how everyone is going through the world, where they're just like, okay, what are we aiming for? What are we trying to do? And it's the same thing, like what Christine was saying about how you get around certain friends and you talk in this way, you talk in that way, or whatever. It's like, she sent me this hilarious Instagram post or whatever, because I was talking about this concept of, we're all looking at society the way that it is and going, somebody's taking care of it, it's okay, I can just go along with it and all that stuff, right? And it's like, what I was saying was, it's like you're going through the woods with a guide and you're just following this guide because they're taking you through all these trails and off the trail and everything, and you feel really comfortable because you're like, I hired a guide to take me, but they have no fucking clue. They've never been in these woods before. You just look really confident, right? And she
That's
said,
kind of like hiring a tutor.
kind of,
The
right?
parents just like, you seem like you know what you're doing. Okay, you educate my kid. And it's like,
Exactly.
sure.
Exactly. But it's she sent me this Instagram post, and it was literally this woman was going for a jog, and these sheep got lost, saw this woman, and started following her. And so there's a video of this woman. She's going for a jog, and there's hundreds of sheep just following her. And she stops, and all the sheep stop. And she's like explaining to the person, she's like, I don't know what to do. These sheep are just following me everywhere I go. And then like she starts going for a run again, and there the sheep go. They're just following her through her trail or whatever. Like, it was the most hilarious thing. But that's literally what we're doing as a society. We're just like, somebody knows what's going on, whether it's the president or this authority or this person, or my parents told me this, so I'm just going along with it. And it's like there's a multi-layered problem here. Part of it is no one knows, or no one's looking to somebody that knows what they're doing, right?
Well,
so,
few people are.
Very few people. Obviously.
That's basically what the script is.
Right.
Well, the people are looking to people who know what they're doing gaming the system. So they're like, oh, they know how to game the system, I'm going to follow them.
Sure. But it's like, is that the purpose of your life? Like, because that's
Right.
what the purpose of everybody's, what everybody has made as their purpose is, I'm just going to game the system the best. It's like, what? How is that the purpose of your life? That, like, do you even understand what the system is? Do you even understand?
The person's not even thinking. They're not even here. They're just running a program. Yeah.
Exactly.
I saw this Facebook post someone made, and they were complaining about some celebrity. I forget exactly what the post was, but they were complaining about people getting sucked into some products that celebrities were endorsing, and they were like, you know, this whole thing about people following their, you know, it was interesting because like they weren't questioning the point of celebrities. They were like just saying how you shouldn't just buy the stuff the celebrities endorsing, like Rihanna's makeup or this or that or whatever, because it's like they don't even know what it is. They're just selling it. It's just using their brand. And I could see within the way they were saying the post, it's like they weren't even though questioning people having a favorite celebrity. It's like you can follow a celebrity, but just don't get sucked into if they promote something to you. And it's like, well, why are you following them? Katie sent me this thing from it's about Paul Jonas. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. Here, let me
Paul Jonas.
Is he a
That's the name
Jonas
of
brother?
I don't
character.
think he's a
That's the
Jonas
name of
fan.
the character in Otherland.
I don't,
Do you
I don't
realize
know
this?
people.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
did I say
snap.
Paul Jonas?
You did say Paul Jonas.
Dude, that's such a weird. That's so weird because I was looking up earlier.
It's a
I did not
mnemonic.
see. I did not
A
see the
mnemonic.
name Paul Jonas. No, I
Joe
was looking
Jonas.
up.
Joe Jonas.
No,
We
I know,
just started
but
Otherland, and it's oh my gosh.
I was looking up Otherland
Oh
because
my gosh.
in Otherland they use the word TikToks.
Yeah.
So I
Okay,
was
yeah.
looking up to see where the reference was, and then that's so funny because then I said Paul Jonas, but I didn't see the word Paul Jonas. But it's Joe Jonas, and he's talking about. Oh, by the way,
Okay, so
also
yes,
in
a
Otherland they
Jonas
talk
brother.
about Netflix too.
It's a Jonas
They use
brother.
the word
I knew it.
Netflix and TikToks in Otherland.
Yeah.
Which is
yes,
crazy.
they
Yes,
do.
they did. That's-
Okay, I sent you guys the link. So it's Joe Jonas talking about how talking about injectables. It's this new
Like Botox.
thing. Botox is one of them. They've got a new one called Xeomin.
for men. That's for men.
Why is his forehead so fucking shiny?
Look at him.
It's the injectables, man.
He doesn't even look like himself anymore. What the?
It's
I
a
don't even know
pure-
what he's supposed to look
It's
like.
a pure
Toxin.
form of botulinum toxin without any stabilizing proteins. So you're putting unstable botulism.
Look
into
at
your
those
face.
cheekbones and that jawline. They're
Look at that
imposing people
chest hair,
so
damn.
much. Oh my god.
Well, listen to this. He says, if you haven't heard about Xeomin, it's a newer Botox competitive label. It basically does the same thing with a slightly different composition, blah, blah, blah. I was first introduced to Xeomin through hearing and reading Gwyneth Paltrow's story and her experience. Paltrow was an ambassador for the brand before they brought Jonas on, likely at least in part for his ability to speak to a specific demographic, men. And basically he says there's this stigma, especially with men, around getting injectables. Jonas admits, I have many guy friends who have done it and they're shy to speak on it. Jonas says that the conversation around Botox and other labels like Xeomin felt gender exclusive in the past. Maybe just because it's not something that we, or at least for myself, I was around much growing up. There's just this idea that this is something we don't talk about, but I like the idea that we can break that and have a conversation where it's not a big deal. Okay, so, we're really breaking the gender norms, guys, because guys need to have injectables too. You're gonna
And
love
wear
this
nail
part.
polish. It shows
Is
later.
anyone else seeing the picture of him wearing what looks like mithril from Lord of the Rings? It's like
But it's like blue.
chain link.
Dude, he looks like
Tank
if you asked AI to be like, give me a really hipster superb Frodo, it would be him.
Listen to this. I spoke to this young kid recently and I remember them saying, your nails are painted? Boys can't have their nails painted. I was like, why not? It's pretty, right? And it says, currently, Jonas is experimenting with whatever concepts of beauty fit into his lifestyle and doing his best to make it a less gendered concept. Even the men's magazines are getting better about sharing tips, like those little makeup sticks for blemishes. He even recalls a recent fan encounter where that opened up a conversation about men wearing nail polish. Oh, it was that comment. And then he says, hold on. He
Wait.
says, where's that part
Wait.
about his wife?
I
The
thought
talking
they were-
about how-
feminizing of
At
men.
the end.
I thought they were
Huh?
targeting men. I thought the target demographic was men.
Oh, here it is. I usually have a lot more time to get ready. So when his wife and him are getting ready for an event, so I asked the nail artist to start with me. He doesn't paint his own nails. I'd probably be absolute garbage if I tried to do it myself. So there's this famous
I gotta stop
guy
looking at this.
trying to break the norm of men painting their nails, injecting their face with botulism, and what was the other thing?
Xeomin.
Human.
Makeup and so forth, right? So I don't even, I mean, Katie sent it to me because it's just like this insane point about these
Feminizing.
injectables that are now the popular thing. But it's just,
Well-
again, this point of the celebrities trying to engineer or using them to engineer the way what we think about and so forth. What were you gonna say?
It's not
Chris?
only that, it's also another quick fix. Injectables, a cover stick, and it also is adhering to like there's only specific looks that should be desired. Like you should desire to look like this, and this is your quick fix ability to get there. And all it is consumerism on top of the hacking and on top of the dopamine hits. Like it's all those things put together in one. And because it's a celebrity, you automatically adhere to it because they have money and ability to have sex with whoever the fuck they want. And you deep down are like, ooh, sex and money. That's what I want in life. And you may not consciously be thinking that, but that's all that it comes down to. And it's like you see this person and you're like, oh, that's what I want.
That's what's
And
trending.
also, he's not participating in real masculinity whatsoever. So it says that it's a target market is to open up to men, but it's like those are weak men. Those are men participating in feminism, you know?
It's funny. Recently, you know, Harry Styles, where are they from? One Direction. He just posted on his Instagram recently, because on his like I think one of his last album covers, he was wearing a dress, like this blue like frilly dress thing or whatever, and obviously like what Jess just mentioned about like the feminization of men, like that's now becoming the trendy thing. But it was funny because his last Instagram post was bring back manly men in that same cover photo of like that album cover photo of him wearing the blue dress. So I went in to look at the comments because someone had posted this being like, this is fucking ridiculous. Like you're not even a manly man and you're saying this like comment. And like people were like going off like you're not a manly man, like you're like a disgrace to men, like the vomit face. And
Dude,
there
I
was like
remember
maybe a few comments that were like, oh, like I love Harry Styles or whatever, but like most of them I was like, wow, like people are not actually like for any of this. Like people
Yeah.
are seeing through it. It's just like
It's trying to be
being
engineered
pushed
though.
exactly.
it's like a
being
small
pushed so heavily.
minority, and yeah, it's engineered. And I remember when Mitch, when you first got involved with the group, and that was like your first, like, I'm gonna fucking stand out with like your peer group. Remember,
got
it
shit
was
on
about the
so
Harry
hard.
Styles
That was
thing.
so great. That was
And
so.
people
I think
got
it was Harry
pissed.
Styles.
No, I think it was.
No, it
someone
was.
else.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, it was for.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was wearing like a fucking sleeping bag or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, sleeping
Yeah,
bag dress. Yeah.
that's right. I
Yeah,
thought it was him.
because it's like,
It's-
okay, as a man, your fucking purpose is to change the world, to step up, take responsibility, and provide for your community. How
No,
the
it's to
fuck
look
are you gonna
pretty.
go?
You're worried
Yeah,
about
yeah.
what you look like and all this stuff. It's like it's
Right.
literally what women are focused on, and then now the men are taking that. And I mean, I was programmed with that very heavily from my mom because she was very much like always doing her makeup, spending like 8 hours or 5 hours or whatever the fuck it felt like forever, you know, like getting ready for stuff, you know, and
She
She
like
waking up at 2 a.m. That way she can be ready by 10 a.m.
and it was like the next level of all that. And
That's
and
a fucked up life.
and I remember like being in college up for a long time, being very obsessed with thinking of how I look and you know, wanting to dress a certain way and all these things. And when you realize it's like actually fucking irrelevant, it's just self-image. It's
Yeah.
like that's actual narcissism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
and it going so Katie made a comment, and it's true. It's like beyond all of this like feminine, masculine, and all of this. It's bringing people forth to this transhumanism pursuit, because think about it, all these implants that we're getting as far as Neuralink goes, and getting plugged into the whatever. It's like reality is gonna need to have things that are beyond in order to have anyone participate in reality. And it's like we're not quite to the point where everyone can just be in the metaverse yet. And so we still have to provide like the monetary, like the money in reality as well. And how do you do that? Go beyond the pursuit of just, you know, living the best life for everyone, like more and more and more, which means people, like if you look at all these people wearing all these things, they're no longer feminine or masculine. They're beyond that. Like in the Hunger Games, it's like everybody's beyond feminine and masculine. They're like crazy stuff. And we're becoming more and more a bio robot. You're right, Katie, because it's like these fucking phones, people have them all the time. Like Aristotle and I are reading a book called Future Proof, and they mention in that like people do these phone detoxing. And why they do that is so that you can realize like how dependent you are on your phone for multiple different things. But through doing that, one of the things you realize the most is when you're taking time away from your phone, and like when you're on the train or doing whatever and you're not on the phone, you realize you see everyone else head down on the phone. Everyone else is like a fucking zombie, because this has become an extension of them, these devices and everything. And it's like, how then, like, the people advertising to that kind of person who's always on their phone, how do we entice them? Let's start creating their body to be transhuman, right? Like, let's give them glasses that record and give you like lifetime information and you can see more, right? Let's give you earpieces that translate everybody, like translate this speaking a different language live time so that you can understand them. Let's make stores where you walk in and your facial recognition, your card's on file, you just throw it all in, you know. And it's like just continuing to go more and more and more into this, like everything is so automated. You physically don't have to do anything. Like you don't have to actually gain knowledge and like have common sense and build anything for yourself.
Yeah,
like
you don't
you
have to
become
create.
so obsolete
Yeah.
that you no longer are necessary, like for yourself to exist.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're fucked because you're so weak. It's like
Yeah.
someone who doesn't expose their immune system to what's going on in the public. It's like at some point, you're so weak that when you go into reality, you get fucking smacked, and you may not, because there's real consequence. You may not actually be able to then catch up.
And
the
the
same way.
idea of what you're going to get is not the reality of it. And a perfect example of that is these transgender surgeries where they like where they turn their dicks into vaginas.
Ugh.
You know what I'm talking about? And like when you listen to the people who are honest about it, it's insane, the complications. They have to like constantly put this like balloon thing and like pump it up to like keep it open because it's a wound, actually that wants to heal. And I was listening to this one guy talking about it, and he was saying like when he would sneeze, it would like inflate like a balloon, like it would pop out and so forth. And I mean, so that's the reality of it. So now the imagination that somebody has of like being transhuman, being a robot, having all this stuff versus the actual reality of it is going to be a total different thing.
You're like trapped in a fucking hell and you like can't get out.
Seriously.
Your body's rejecting it because it's not your natural like
design,
normal
yeah.
state of being.
It's funny because we watched What Is a Woman, right? And
Have you not seen it before till recently?
no, we haven't.
No, and
Oh.
like we watched it because Cam had sent that interview with that mom that said she like made a mistake, socially transitioning.
That
her
was
child.
a really good interview, huh?
She was mentioning someone that was in that documentary. So I was like, you know what? Let's just watch it and see like what all the hype was about. Anyways, it was pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
I thought it was really well done.
We like to watch movies like way after the hype. That's the way we do. We're like, was it actually decent? Okay, we'll check it out now.
That's like us with all these books you're talking about, like Snow Crash.
Yeah,
that's you guys.
Books
That's
are
you
way
You
guys.
guys should watch Gone with the Wind. I'm telling you.
We'll consider it. I've got to put on my schedule watching The Wizard of Oz. I've never seen that one. The
Drake,
original.
I don't think I ever watched it either.
I had read half of Zone 23 while I was pregnant, and then I just hadn't continued reading it until you mentioned on a podcast a couple weeks ago that you were reading Zone 23, and then I was like, shit, Mitchell, where's the reading light? I need to start
it's
reading
intense.
this again.
It's intense, right?
Who's reading the Asimov stuff? Anybody?
Not yet. It's in my Amazon cart, like my books to read.
Should I raise my hand too?
Did you see that?
You went to the top.
Oh, because you have gestures on.
What the fuck is gestures?
Did it do it automatically, or did you do that?
Did Cameron
I thought you did that. Yeah. Wait, okay, do
Hey,
another
guys.
gesture.
Okay. We have not watched the Asimov. We have not started reading it yet.
Not doing
No,
it
we
now.
haven't.
We're
started
reading
it in
Otherlands.
this house.
We're
I read
reading
the
Otherlands.
robot series. so far.
So I just finished the last of Foundation. So I've read
Foundation.
all of the
Wow.
stuff, right, from Asimov, like all the different parts, and they'll
Yep.
connect and everything. And without spoiling anything, towards the end of the book, they're arguing about what pronouns they should call this particular human that like has evolved to where they're like hermaphroditic.
Mm.
Oh,
Mhm.
wow.
And they're trying to figure out, like, do we call it it? No, that's weird. Like it's more like a she sort of. So like they're discussing this point. And I mean, that was written in like, I think the 80s or something. I don't even know, like when it was like one of the last ones he wrote.
Wow.
And there's robots, and there's like talking about what's the next level of humanity, and it being robotic and or amalgamation between the two and all this. And I'm like, this has all been fucking already thought out, predicted.
So the point that we were looking at was there was a doctor who was a trans woman.
Like plastic surgeon, basically.
Yeah, and then they were doing the surgeries for
Mhm.
I guess children, minors, and also adults to transition. I'm thinking specifically to women, but anyway,
Plastic surgery was the beginning of transhumanism.
Yeah.
yeah,
For
Well,
sure.
Because think about it, they were injecting women with silicone.
literally.
Wow.
Silicone. Oh, never mind.
Silicone. You got to put that one through, TT. Sorry, Cam.
Those words, man.
Only I could
There's
spell.
yeah. Anyway, but the way that they described some of the way that they described the surgery and the results of the surgery, they said it was sort of like a Faustian bargain. It was a it's a Faustian bargain, and we were like, what?
And it's funny because we had just looked up that phrase like a couple days ago. So I think in that interview that lady mentioned it or something.
Right.
And we were like, oh, basically it's another way of saying like deal with the devil. So we
Yeah.
were like, why would this transhumanist or trans doctor say that basically what you're doing with doing a trans surgery is a Faustian bargain? It's like they know there's so much risk involved with that you're taking a huge risk to make that transition.
And the Faustian,
Can you just explain like what it is for people who don't know?
Who's the devil in this equation? That's the
he
question.
is.
Like,
the
right?
surgeon. The surgeon is, yeah. But a Faustian bargain is basically like there's no winning scenario. Like you lose on this side, you lose on that side. So it's like, oh, I don't feel comfortable in my own body. And then you get this surgery, and it's like, and then you have to come in for a checkup every few months or whatever, because your body's going to completely reject the surgery that you just did. You know?
So one thing that I want to like lay out, because like we talk about this a lot on this podcast, this transgender and the affirming care and transitioning and all this stuff, and it's like it's really a mental disorder, like that when it goes down to like that's what it is. Like unless like I don't even think it's possible genetically to have both XY and XX chromosome. Is it possible?
Yeah.
Some people
have
do,
both?
but it's not an actual, it's like an
There's like
abnormality.
XXY and that
But
is
okay, so that's what I mean. Like, okay, so if that's the case, if you actually have that, then you would need support probably
Right,
from
of
the
course.
medical system. But if you look at the majority of the people out there who are this, they don't have that going on. It's not a real biological thing that's happening. It's a mental thing that's happening. In your mind, you're so you're like there's so many different things that's going on, but it's unstable really is what it comes down to. It's like you're so unstable that you're going to these drastic extremes in order to find
It's just a
something that
response.
resembles
It's a
stability, but
response
it's
to
false.
confusion and depression.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
and
That's
a-
why,
Yeah.
like
and a-
when you look at the gender dysphoria, and I was really looking into this, it's just the person feels really bad, and they're
Yeah.
like depressed, and it's not necessarily they feel like they're a different gender. They go for looking at they go into something to like a therapy thing, and they're like, oh, you have gender dysphoria,
Right.
and it's like,
Right.
Even though,
okay,
like,
I didn't realize
every-
depression could be a symptom of that. Oh,
It's
okay,
a
cool.
false stability.
It
Yeah.
becomes,
Yeah.
but check this out. I was looking up the Faust point.
Yeah.
And it's just the summary on Wikipedia is very interesting because it says Faust. So the story is he's unsatisfied with his life as a scholar and becomes depressed. After an attempt to take his own life, he calls on the devil for further knowledge and magic powers with which to indulge all the pleasures and knowledge of the world. In response, Mephistopheles, who's like the devil's representative, he's like the lawyer. He comes and he makes a bargain with him. He says he'll serve him with magic powers for a set number of years, but at the end of it, the devil gets his soul and he'll be eternally enslaved. And so think about it. It started with the guy being depressed,
Right.
and him going, how can I become all powerful and just have everything I want? And then the shortcut is the fucking deal.
Yeah.
That's what
Oh.
TikTok is. That's Instagram, transgender, all of this shit. The fucking mRNA, like it's all the fucking, like, it's the little shortcut. It's like the deal. It's like, well, we'll just give you this and then everything will be better and everything will be okay. It's the same thing in religion when people are like, I give my life to Jesus Christ as my savior. It's like, it's basically like you're actually making a deal with the devil of like, I'll just give you that and then just enslave me eternally and make me happy.
Right. Right.
Because
Yeah.
where in that, like in that point of saying, yes, I just give myself to the Lord and Savior Jesus, where in that are you living the message of Jesus? Like Jesus would slap you in the face and say, where the fuck are you actually giving as you'd like to receive?
Right.
That was his message.
You know what's the perfect thing for everybody to listen to in this context is Revenge of the Ego.
Yes.
Because that's what it comes down to is so it's not just the trans people, it's not just the celebrities, it's every person. The point of just wanting to feel good, to be happy, to feel all this stuff without learning how to direct yourself to create that and give as you want to receive.
Mhm.
Your ego will take advantage of all the points that you are participating in as positives and utilize that as sort of a bargaining chip to get you to just accept things as they are and not change the fucking system. And it's the Agent Smith and everybody. And
Mhm.
it's like that people, everyone needs to listen to that constantly, because it's so easy for somebody to, when pressure, because what the ego does is it takes all the positives and then it gets you to focus on that so that you're not directing everything. And then it takes some little negative that comes up in your life, amplifies it using feelings and emotions to where you're like,
Mhm.
fuck, I can't deal with this. Let me just, okay, whatever you say, I'll just, okay, I'll abandon anything. I don't care. I'll turn my back, whatever. I'll just make this go away. And so that's that point. It's like always testing you within, are you going to stand for principles? Or are you going to stand for your feelings, your emotions, and so forth? And the interesting thing is it's never as bad as it seems. And it's like Bernard said, there's no problems, only solutions.
Yeah.
So there's always this point within us where we're going to be tested constantly in this process, but just generally everyone is in this process whether they realize it or not.
Yeah.
It's just the question, are you actively doing it? Are you using the tools? Are you supporting yourself? Are you like, I'm going to direct myself and realize myself? Or am I just going to like be a part of the process of just suffering until, and like letting things happen to me until I finally either give in all the way? And what's interesting is that is actually the cycle that people are on when they're going through religion. When you look at religious stuff, karma, all these different spiritual paths, is actually the ego, which you call God, telling you just give up everything of you as an individual self-directive being and submit yourself to me, God / the system, and bow down to it, give your allegiance to it, don't question any of it. And when you do that, I will reward you with a seat in heaven at my right hand and so forth. And it's really just saying, give up, do not challenge the system as it is.
Yeah.
So I have a really cool analogy for that. Problems, there are no problems, there's only solutions. Well, that's the same thing as, so problems and solutions is the same words as controlling and creating in that context. Because with the problems, if you just go into controlling the problem, just like the elite does, just like you do when you personally have problems, that's not actually creating any kind of real physical solution. You're just participating in the problem, trying to control it. And then a real solution, you have to create that solution. It's something beyond the problem that gets created for it to be solved. And so that's like a huge point that I've had to walk through myself, is not participating in control. Because if you have all of a sudden the ego going and you have this negative feeling, because say, okay, something that I struggled with early on in my process was I would miss a day of doing techno tutor and I would feel shitty. I would be like, I am the worst human being. Like, this is going to be my downfall. I missed today, and Mitchell never misses a day. What the fuck? And that then I would go into control, like trying to control that point of like, I can't miss a day. I never can miss a day. Just like then going into the extreme, like I got to make up for it and do twice as much tomorrow, and just like trying to control the situation instead of in that moment realizing today I'm going to do my techno tutor, and that's like a creative expression. Like, here, let me go do it, and you did it, and there's no need to react in any kind of way in response to that problem. It's like, if you do react to that problem, you're just trying to control it, control your emotions, like all the different forms of control in that situation, instead of just going straight to solution, which would be just going straight to creating. And it's funny, I see this so much in my life. Like, I've come to this point in my process where in a moment, I have this idea of something that I can do that is best for me to do. Like the other day, a very simple example of this was I was making tomato soup, and I thought, oh, I just made fresh bone broth, and bone broth is super nutritious, great for me. And like, I can tell like that would be supportive for me right now to have some bone broth. Let me just put a little bone broth in with my tomato soup, because it won't really change the soup much, and it will add all the benefits of the bone broth. And in that moment, instead of just doing it and creating, I went into control, and it was like, oh, but that's more work. You have to go into the refrigerator, grab the bone broth, and pour a little into your soup. Like, that's more work. It's easier just be done and eat your soup. And I did. I participated in that, and I just went. And then later I thought to myself, whoa, I realized in that moment I participated in my mind going into back chat thoughts and like distracting me from actually doing what's best. And it's great because then the weeks after me realizing that, I could see myself participating in that all the time. And then I was able to, in that moment, correct myself. Like the other day, I set up these mats on the floor for Aristotle to crawl on so that he can like learn how to maneuver. And it's just better because we have hard wood. And I was hanging out with him on the mat, and I was about to start eating my breakfast. And in that moment, I realized, ooh, I would prefer to do some stretching first before I eat my breakfast, because after I eat my breakfast, I'm going to feel too full and it won't be as supportive for me to stretch after I eat. And it was like, all of a sudden I could sense that some like thoughts were going to come up of excuses of not to do it. And I was like, fuck off. And I started stretching right away. Because it's like, in that moment, you can participate in bullshit excuses of not to do the thing, but instead just start doing the thing right away. Like, you already realize it's best, so stop participating in the excuses from you doing the thing.
I was reading this creations journey. I don't remember which one it was, but I know it's like in the early 30s. But there was something that Bernard was saying was basically, in every moment, you have an opportunity in those moments where it's like, these are the what was the word that he used? Not meaningless, but just like throughout your day, like there's moments where it's like, it seems like it's not really that important, right? It's like just like a little thing here or there. But in every one of those moments, you're given the opportunity, or you're taking that opportunity to make a choice of, am I going to participate in life, or am I just going to participate in basically just going along with things as they are? And all of those little moments accumulate, and then they determine what your life looks like, right? And so basically, in all these little small moments where you're thinking like, oh, it's not a big deal, like it doesn't really matter, you know, it's actually, you're making a decision in every one of those moments. And then at the end of the day, you're seeing, oh, okay, were you more participating in bullshit and just like this idea, or were you more participating in life and creating and actually like, well, just life, being here, being present, right? And then that accumulates. Obviously, you have more days where you're like, I'm focused on life and in every moment. And, then what does that create? It's like you're actually living here as opposed to just being a part of the system, which is what most people are focused on. It's cool because I'm reading the book Hold On to Your Kids again. And like,
Mm.
man, dude, I'm reading it now from a completely different perspective. Right. And it's so cool because as I'm going through it, it's like this idea of peer orientation, which we talked about before, but like this idea of being a child who's oriented with their peers, right?
Mhm.
Well, they're just following along with what everybody else is doing. It's the same thing that I was talking about before with like the sheep following the runner. They're like, oh, somebody here is leading this. We're actually all doing this at various levels in society. And so as a society, we're all oriented towards the system. And that's like, and it's one of the things that they say is like, if you have a competing attachment, so if you're oriented with the system and there's something else that's competing with that attachment of what you would be oriented towards, then you're going to have conflict and you're going to choose one and you're going to distance yourselves from the other. And the really obvious case of this is when a child is like, they're hanging out with all their buddies, they're a teen now, and they don't want to be around their parents. And, mostly it's because they're going to school. First off, why are you putting your kid in school, right? But they're going to school and they're like, oh, I'm with all my friends. And they are really attached to this relationship. And so the relationship that they have with their parents interferes with that. And so they distance themselves from their parents by mocking them, by being cold towards them, just avoiding them in general. And basically, it's like, okay, so I'm safe in my peer group, and we're all cool, and we do we're alike. We show each other that we're alike, and we're part of the same group. All of that stuff. Versus if a child is oriented towards their parents, they're going to develop in a different way where, yeah, they want to be like their parents to an extent, but that develops into them being more open with their parents, more vulnerable with their parents, and that supports them to be more vulnerable with themselves, more intimate with themselves, and gives them a real depth into like, oh, okay, really understanding themselves and more of the world around them. It supports them to mature. If they're just hanging out with their friends, they're not going to mature because there's no maturity from there. It's like everybody's at the same maturity level, right? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because that's where we're at in the system. It's like we're at this same, everybody's just like, oh, well, we just got to go along with the system. That's the maturity level of where everyone's at. And what we're saying, what we're suggesting is, hey, there is a lot more depth to this. We're not just suggesting it. That's what we're saying. It's like, there's a lot more depth to it. We're experiencing it for ourselves, but also if we do not take this route, we're fucked. We're completely fucked. Right. And yeah, there was the other point was just this. They liken it to a relationship, and they have a really great analogy for it. And that analogy is if your kids, okay, if you went and your spouse was all of a sudden being cold towards you, not making eye contact, avoiding you, being really short with their words, right? And you went to your friends and you're like, I don't know what's going on. Your friends wouldn't be like, well, have you put them in timeout? they wouldn't be like, have you set boundaries with them and set your expectations? Yeah, they'd be like, oh, it sounds like a relationship problem. Like maybe they're having an affair, and that's the same thing that's happening with children to a certain extent. It's a relationship problem, right? Not necessarily like an affair, but it's not a behavior problem. It's a relationship problem.
Mhm.
And the major point behind that is this has been going on in our society at least since the Second World War. right? And think about it. All the parents, all the dads went to they went to war. All the moms went to work, right? Because this was like what they were talking about. Like, oh, this was a huge movement for women because they had to go into the factories, they had to do the work and all this stuff, right? So where did all the kids go? They went into daycares.
School.
Exactly. Daycare, schools, all that. And then they spent more time with each other than they did with their own parents, right? Which is what we're still having today. And then you could see the trend of society just becoming less and less mature. And we've been on this really steep decline of becoming dumber and dumber and dumber. And
That's so true.
it's so
Generation
interesting.
after generation,
right?
literally their most vital years, they're just around people that are just as immature as them, instead of actually being supported and learning from people who are more mature and like understand things and are actually explaining things to them so that they can understand. And there's no way that school can provide that, because there's one teacher and how many kids, plus that teacher doesn't even really know, and they aren't actually supporting the kids. And at the end of the day, that teacher doesn't have the same DNA and like programs as that individual, like the child that is at school. So how are you supposed to know how to support that child with those things? You're not even taking the time to get to know what those are for them, let alone you having walked through it yourself, like the parents would have. Ideally, obviously not all parents are taking responsibility to do that, but yeah.
And so it's interesting because, okay, what does society say? What's the orientation, the pure orientation for society? It's like, oh, you should be putting your kid in school. It's like, you're just still following that same system, right? And then they would look at somebody who's just outside of that going like, oh, that's kind of weird that, you want to homeschool, you want to, educate your kids at home. Like, that's kind of, oh, that's different. That's in the same way that, kids at school would be like, oh, you tell secrets to your dad. Like that's weird. Like you tell your dad things, like it's like you don't. So you're saying like you don't have a relationship with your family. You don't have a relationship. You're not real with them. You're not being genuine. You're not even there. It's okay. Society is, you're not doing XYZ. Like you're not in the system. That's weird, right? Versus like, wait, you're not being real. You're not even genuine. Like everyone's lying. Like I love, I've been talking with Avery, every once in a while. And Avery's like, okay, let's actually consider it. How many people in the US have made or are making over $100,000? Like if you look at the percentage, it's like less than 3%, something like that, right? Make over $100,000. It's like, okay, so everyone else who's like claiming to be some hot shot or whatever, they're all liars. They're all liars, right? And that's what the system is. The system is just like, oh, I gotta have this image and this and that, whatever. But it's all just lies. It's like what we're talking about is real. Like we're doing the real thing, real relationships, real money, real purpose. See you, Mitchell. And so, yeah, that's what we're quote unquote oriented towards, right? We're not talking about images. We're not talking about shortcuts. We're not talking about not taking responsibility or blaming somebody else or just going along with the system. We're not talking about any of that. What we're talking about is being here for real and actually creating the life that we all secretly dream about, but are afraid to actually create and go after, because then we know we would be sticking out to the system where it's like, oh, you're weird, right? But that's just your mind,
100%. Drake could said it better. Instead of trying to control reality, let's create within reality.
There you go. Right. So I think that's pretty good podcast. What do you think, Cam? You got something to add?
No, I mean, that just to finalize that point, like this point about control versus creation is something you really have to get effective with. I mean, obviously generally, but as a parent specifically, because you will, if you go into control, it's like you're just trying to get the child to change the behavior. I'm not really adding anything to what you said. It's just versus like looking at what is the underlying point, why is there no communication, or what is the child reacting to, or what are they not getting, or whatever the issue is. What a lot of times parents do is they just try to control the child to, no, you speak to me this way, or you just say these things, but it's not solving anything. At school's the same thing. It's not about actually learning. It's like, perform on this test.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Like Jess is saying, in the chat, like, say please and thank you, like someone said, use your indoor voice. And it's like, what the fuck is an indoor voice? Like, stuff like that. Like, it's just like, rather than explain to the child, like, hey, when we're in the home and there's lots of people in here and we're yelling, it's, like if everyone was doing that, what kind of environment would that create? Would you like that? Is that something you want to participate in? And helping them understand why, rather than just don't do that. Because then it's like, you're not giving them all the context to understand so they can make the decisions. And that's a basis of free choice, is understanding why you should do something and why not. So you're choosing based on what makes sense, rather than just what most people are doing, which is just reacting to stuff. If you're reacting, you're not choosing. Right. So,
Yeah.
I mean, those are things we can go into probably further on the parenting call, but we got that coming up in an hour or so. But yeah, that's all from me today. I think that's a pretty good place to wrap up.
Nice.
Right.
Awesome. Well, hey, just so you guys know, we are talking about all the real shit. And one of those real shits is I'm going to be taking a shit later, but another and more important real shit.
You're gonna be sending that in to sell it?
Well, we'll find out. Gotta look into this thing. No, but more importantly is we are having a real event, in person, self-perfected event in San Diego, June 2nd through June 4th. It is going to be on Paradise Point. That's what it's called, right? I messed up on one of our hangouts, or a TT call, and I said Paradise Point, and man, people were ragging me, just ragging me. But anyway, we are going to be in Paradise Point, San Diego, private island, just an event just for us, right? And it's going to be there's Joel Hicks in the chat, Paradise Point.
Pontius Pilate.
Oh yeah,
that's what I call it.
I thought you were referencing the Monty Python skit where they're like, biggest dickus.
If you want to laugh for like 10 minutes straight, look up that biggest dickus Monty Python sketch. Yes,
it's pretty good. It's pretty good. But hey, come meet us in person for real, right? Shake our hands, give us hugs, have a great time with us, but also really make some real connections, right? I'm using the word real a lot because, if you haven't seen on Instagram, people are being fake. On social media, people are not being real. They're not being genuine. On every media, if you've watched the news, you've been inundated with bullshit.
Why should social media be any different? It's
right.
Just fake, like all the fucking media.
Right. Exactly. School was bullshit. It was fake. Like there was no purpose to it. If you gamed the system, you won, and it was just like, okay, so now you're done with that. Yeah, exactly. You just spent 8 hours of your day really just engaged in like, how do I game this system? Learned nothing for 12 years. And you got out and you got to, okay, now what, right? You want to see reality. You want to see like, okay, what am I actually here to do? Have real purpose in your life? Come to the event. You can go to self-perfected.com, and right there on the homepage, there is a tab for get your ticket, right? You just click that, get your ticket, and we'll see you at the event. We're pretty close to selling out our room block right now, and so we're really excited about that. So get your ticket now so you can be a part of that and get a discount on your room block as well.
All those females out there who have been for years just trying to control their life, trying to make everything happen, be the boss babe, create the life that they've always desired, have the house, have the cars, all those things. Realize that you trying to control and make that happen isn't going to make that happen. You need to join this community and be a part of people who are actually creating that for themselves. like I have. I'm living that life right now. And I can show you exactly how I did that. I thought there was no way that I could find a guy who not only was motivated and moving themselves and not just playing video games every day, but also purpose driven, ready to be a great dad, and also good looking. Have you seen Mitchell on this podcast? Okay, I didn't realize you could have it all. I thought you had to pick and choose some of those attributes and whichever one was the most important to you. But guess what? You can find someone who has it all. And if you go to this event, you will find tons of guys that have it all. Like, come to this event and find your partner to take on life and create the life that you want together. Like, that is the fastest way to do it. Because if you try and just do it on your own and be a boss babe and control things around you, that is not going to work. It's going to be infinitely faster for you to get the life that you've always desired if you do it alongside a purpose-driven partner who has it all. So come to the event to get it all. Come to the event to find other people who have it all and to learn from them. And let's all be a community full of people who have it all. Like, the world is going to be so attracted to us as a community because we aren't hacking the system. We're building on a real foundation and creating the lives that everyone has always desired. And that's what you're going to find when you come to this event. Plus, not only can you find that at this event, you're going to be in paradise. This resort is fucking beautiful. It's on the ocean, like oceanfront. What are they called? Where we're staying, it's not like a typical room. It's like you get your own little, not hut, but I'm not even sure. But
Cabana?
What was that?
Cabana?
Bungalow?
Yeah, something like that. Like, it's super cool, super awesome, super elite. Like, I'm gonna be there and I'm gonna bring Aristotle. Aristotle's amazing, you guys. He literally looks like he's 1 year old already. When he gets there, he's probably gonna look like he's 5. I don't know. It's gonna be amazing. Like, just come and let's all level up together. That's why we called it Enter the 1%, because everybody there is physically creating and living off purpose and not just trying to hack the system. Like, we are the 1%. We are creating, and we are not controlling reality. We're creating a new reality. So come join us. The event is going to be amazing.
Yeah, sweet.
Well said,
Awesome.
Jess. I agree.
Yeah. So we'll see you
See you
there.
guys.
And we'll see you on next week's podcast. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.